Hey, music lovers, Sarah J here. Looking for an inclusive space where you can connect with fellow fans, deep dive into your favorite music, and be a part of something special? Well, look no further. Join us on Patreon, where music and community come together. Get exclusive content, behind the scenes access, and a place to geek out over the artists you love, plus explore music you haven't heard yet. Come hang out with us. Patreon.com/DATC Media Company. That's patreon.com/DATC Media Company. See you there. A member of the DATC Media family.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today is season 11. Nice round, even number, episode 10 of season 11. And I got my friend Sarah J here from Drop Among This Crowd podcast, amongst many other things, entrepreneur, lovely human being. I was on Sarah's podcast about a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe. Something like that.
Time is weird right now.
It's
Is weird anyways, but we're not ready to go down that rabbit hole just yet. Let's pump the
No,
brakes.
let's don't do that. We can get there at some point.
Get-
But Sarah, dude, thank you. It's so fun to hang with you again, A. And then B, thank you for spending the time to make time out of your day to hang with me.
Of course. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this and I've been telling everybody about it and I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Nice. I came
It's a little
correct.
different being like in this, in this atmosphere. Like I'm usually the one driving the train. So
You don't have to do anything but just sit back and put your feet up on the caboose.
love it.
So, Sarah, I always ask this as my first question.
Okay.
What is your earliest musical memory?
My earliest musical memory. My goodness. I would have to say, like, do you mean just something just music related at all? Or do you say like live experience or just like music?
Could be hearing something on the radio in a car. Could be,
Anything.
going to a carnival and sitting on a carousel.
It's definitely, I mean, music has always been something that has been just ingrained in my life. Like my mom talks about wanting to find this photo that she took of me when I was really little and I had the headphones on and she was playing Yes for me. So that just kind of explains everything.
Right.
Like that's it. Go over that explained it all. But she has
That's
I
so
don't have
true.
that's it. But I don't like have any memory of that moment and I hope she does find that photo. But for me, I would have to say that it was the mixtapes that my dad used to make for me.
Oh, that's
Like
sweet.
that was really for me, like if I take it back that far, my dad was in the military. He was a Marine and he didn't want us to all move around. So we lived in North Carolina and then he would move around. And that way, we were home, we were in the same school, we were in whatever, because growing up, on and near the military base, kids were shuffling in and out of school if their dads were stationed in different areas and then you moved. That's what happened. So my dad didn't want that for us. He wanted us to have, stability of having home and everything. So he traveled all over and he would make these mixtapes and this would have been in like the late 80s and so this is when he had to put a lot of effort into making a mixtape and he would mail them to me and he would make a game out of it. He would ask me and see here, this is explains why I am the way I am too, is he would ask questions before songs and do like quiz. So I was like the only 10-year-old that knew that Sting sang the backing vocals on Money for Nothing, because that was one of my questions on the mixtape was, who is the backing vocals on this? So he would do like prizes too. There would be things like once I would get the answers, and then when he would come home, we would, do a special thing like him and I. So that was something I think is like my first memories, and it's such a foundational like piece of everything. Not only like the songs that he was sending me, but just like the fact of asking me the questions, and then I would learn these facts about this music and be really interested in the backstories of the musicians. And so that really, it's his fault, and my mom too. My mom definitely has some blame for my music obsession for sure, but I think that's really like my first like music memory. About like 4 or 5, and yeah.
That might be one of the sweetest answers I think I have ever gotten out of the 200 some odd episodes that I've done of the show now. That might take the cake. I mean, there's been plenty of things with people's parents and stuff, but like to think about pen pal mixtapes in a way,
Literally.
what a
Literally.
great name for a podcast. Maybe we should start another one, Sarah, and call it pen pal mixtapes.
I like
Um,
this. You
but
know how I always am with the ideas. Don't give me anything that you don't want me to run with. You know how I am. I'm gonna message you tomorrow. I'm like, okay, so here is the artwork. When are we recording? Like, let's go.
Like we both need more on our plate.
Literally, but we would make it happen though.
we would. But no, seriously, that is like the sweetest. So can you do you remember any pivotal songs that like to this day are still some of your favorite songs from those tapes?
Well, it's definitely like everything that is still my favorite and very much like my comfort music, Dire Straits. So of course the Knopfler sound is just so synonymous with my dad. A lot of Genesis, and then Phil Collins because of the time frame.
Mhm.
Um just and all of that kind of CCR, and just all of that kind of music that my dad really loved, and that was his way of like, connecting with me. And when he was home, he from Kingston, New York, and they had a farm that was actually not far from where Woodstock was. My great Aunt Rose, this is like a whole thing, but it's a great story. My Aunt Rose, actually, her farm was right by where Woodstock happened. And so a lot of people were parking on her lawn like during the weekend and everything, their buses and everything like that. Well, as everyone knows, weather was awful. And so when they left, her whole front yard was just completely destroyed from everybody trying to, get out and everything else. And so obviously she was upset about it,
Mhm.
of course. She had all this property and everything. And a few days later, there was a convoy and everyone came back, and they had come back with like plants and flowers and dirt and supplies and things and whatever, and they came back and did what they could to rectify what they had done to the land while they were there for those whatever days. And she was like, yeah, they stayed and I made them food and they were like at the thing, and it was like this whole story, and I'm like, that is the coolest thing in the world. And just really is a testament to like what that whole Woodstock experience was, really about. And I'm like, that's just such a cool story. So
Yeah.
my dad actually went to Woodstock and then enlisted and went to Vietnam. So he was just like kind of that quintessential guy of that time period. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, just all that music. And it's always still my favorite. And it's still like my comfort music, like that's where I go when I'm just like, that's my safety zone, but
Heck
I
yeah.
love it.
That's
Any of that.
amazing.
And it's classic fucking bangers, man. Like the music during the 70s was just so good. Like it was
Mhm.
just so good. And the older I get, my taste broadens, and then you learn more about people that were playing together, and then you just get on all the rabbit holes, and it's just like, oh my god, there's so much music.
I know, and you know what's weird about it when you think about it? Not to say that this is like encompassing all music now and all new music, but like there was like a hidden sophistication in the music of that time.
Totally.
What I mean by that is there was like you know who I think is kind of bringing that back is do you know that band Improvement Movement? Have you heard of
No,
those guys?
I'm familiar. Mm-mm.
They're like AM Gold kind of vibes. Like, you know, that like 70s Laurel Canyon, AM radio, just like really powerful harmonic progressions throughout the music, big vocal harmonies, all four of the dudes sing. It's like that kind of thing. And I think that there was like a level of sophistication like that at that time period that
Totally.
you don't get to see much anymore in a way.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It's really strange.
Yeah.
And like maybe that stuff is kind of coming back around because those guys in that band are in their 20s probably, like mid 20s. So like who knows where they heard it? They probably heard it from their parents, fell in love,
Right.
just like you did,
Right. Right.
you
Or
know.
even if they're 20, I mean, it's crazy to think of it, but probably their grandparents.
Yeah,
When you
most
think
likely.
of the because of, my mom's age, my dad passed in '06, but my mom, she's 65 and she does have a grandson who's 21. So,
Mhm.
it's probably, even their grandparents. And it's interesting because I had someone on my show, I think it was last year. Again, we're back to the time being weird. But he had made a mention about record company not investing or being interested in groups the way that they used to be, or perhaps listeners are, which is really interesting whole thing that he talked about. But his point was super valid, and I thought about it. When you kind of look at the music that's out there, there are groups, there are successful groups, but a lot of them are, they've been around for a while. And more of it is more about the solo artist now.
Mhm.
So, it's kind of an interesting thing of how, the music industry is just always changing and evolving, and it's just a very interesting beast, I guess you could say.
Do you think do you think rock and roll is coming back? I can kind of smell it in the air a little bit. It feels like that resurgence of that 90s thing is happening right now.
I think that is happening in a way. It's very interesting to kind of watch, um not only music, but I think just overall. I mean, my daughter is 14 and a half, and it's really interesting to just kind of see a lot of things, just kind of how things are kind of just evolving in a lot of ways. And I think that people want and expect more out of certain things now more than they used to, if that makes sense. And I think that's why that kind of music is coming back around, because people are just kind of sick of kind of where it was going and what it was doing. And I think it's interesting to watch artists like Youngblood, which I would love to watch him live just because he's so captivating and so passionate and really carrying that flag to the next generation. And he's in that interesting, just from my observations, kind of like in this very interesting position where he's got the older fans, the fans that, saw Ozzy back in the day and, did all these different tours and whatever, and just love that so much and are craving that again in their life, their passion for that music. But then there's also these young kids who are getting this for the first time and getting to experience this incredible artist that, when you look at music history, how often do we get those, you know what I mean? And so to
Mhm.
watch him, and he's still, I think maybe he's had a few albums already, there's always years and years and years of work before you get to where he is now. So I'm not sure how many albums he has under his belt already, but I know he's been working at it for a long time, I think since he was like 17. Um So just to like have this next generation of something cool to watch too, because he's so early in his career. So it's going to be fascinating to watch what he does, because and to go back to the time frame we spoke earlier, like the 70s, all that was unfolding in real time. Nobody knew like how iconic shit was going to be, and like timeless things were going to end up being like, because it was like happening in the moment. And I think that
Right.
that's really cool with artists like him, where it's like you don't know what you're going to be like, oh, I remember when that came out or this happened or whatever. And it's going to be those like stories and memories. And I think that's really exciting for music, because I think music needs that right now, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard to like it's hard for me, I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to find new bands because I don't it's not like I am against letting Apple Music suggest bands because I will not subscribe to Spotify. I just don't believe that they're an entity I want to support with my money.
Yep.
Um,
Same.
but I do Apple and but you know what's funny is like we just went to a concert like maybe 4 weeks ago, about a month ago. My daughter is a big Noah Khan fan,
Okay.
as are a lot of 14-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And he's only 29 years old. And I wasn't aware really much about him other than that he's like a Vermont guy and like waves that flag pretty hard. And when we saw him, I was like, oh, damn, this dude is real good. Like,
Mhm.
real good. And he's just really starting, even though he has 3 records under him. You can already see the trajectory that he's taking and like the risks he's taking too. Because I know that he gets compared to Mumford and Sons a lot because that four on the floor type vibe
Yeah.
with like folk music. But I was really impressed with him. And it's not often that, I guess that's how when we were younger, how you find out about new music. It's either radio or you go to a show and the opening band like lights a fire under you,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Yep.
So it's
For
interesting to
sure.
see people like that, like Noah Khan, and like what is he gonna carve out like as he gets, into his 30s even and beyond. Because if you look at even people like John Mayer, like when John started from like Room for Squares until now,
Yeah.
very different.
Totally.
Very different. And it's
Totally.
like and he was a situation that you were talking about where he was him and Clay Cook in Atlanta where they were playing together, but they were like, we just want you. And like
Yeah.
Clay Cook and John wrote all those songs off of Room for Squares, but John, I guess well Clay got paid, so I mean he can't get too mad. I'm sure he
For
bought a
sure.
house with the money he made from.
I'm sure he's doing all
Yeah,
right.
he's doing all right. But
Right.
but it's interesting, like you're saying, it's like I want there to be more bands again. I miss that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. It's
Yeah.
just strange.
It's interesting you brought that up too, because my daughter loves One Direction, and she loves Louis Tomlinson, who is one of the guys in One Direction. And so he does this music festival. This was like the 5th year. It's called Away from Home Festival. And it was here in Cooperstown, New York, which is like 4 hours from me. And we were hoping to get media credentials. We kind of had some like preliminary plans in place to, make the logistics happen, because it was the same weekend as a fundraiser that I was doing and putting together and running in Toronto. So we're like, okay, we can make this work if we have to. But I didn't hear anything. So we're just kind of going along with our plans and everything. And 2 days before the festival, they reach out and they're like, can your team still come and cover the event? And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do we do here? Like, I want to do this for her. I want to make this happen, but I have my event. I'm trying to figure it out. So the artist she wanted to see was closing out the festival on Sunday night. So I'm like, all right, I can leave Toronto after the event, drive home, pick her up, drive to Cooperstown, go to the festival, do the whole thing. It was an insane 48 hours, because, coming into like a major event that I had been planning for a year, so doing that and then all this, but I had to. Like, I had to do that for her. And we got there, and all the music that we saw that day was really good, and none of it that I was familiar with at all. And all of the artists and bands were really great. And Louis Tomlinson puts on a hell of a show. Like, you have to give credit where credit is due. And, it's
Mhm.
like, I'm not going to jump on Louis tour anytime soon, but, like, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. And she made her way up to the front, just like her mother would. And she made her way up to the front and had her whole time up there. She came back and she was literally just vibrating, and
Yeah.
she had bracelets and she had confetti in her pocket, and she was like, "Mom, it was this girl's birthday and it was, this girl, and we got pictures and I got number." And she was just like, and I'm yes. Yes. I love this so much for you. Like,
Man, that's the
yes.
festival scene. That's what people don't understand about the bands that we love and go see, is it like at some point, if you go on tour and you're seeing enough shows, you start to see the same people in the same
Yes.
geographical
Yep.
area on the floor.
Yep.
Because if you go
Yep.
see Mo, you're gonna, and if it's anywhere close to Baltimore, you're gonna see me Chuck Side up front.
Yep.
I'm gonna be there. And it's that
Yep.
way, but it's like it starts to turn into like a little family where everybody's like in it together. Is that your
Yes.
favorite thing about the scene? Is just like, the
Totally.
relationships you've made and everything? Like, tell me a little bit about how, like, when did you start really wanting to go see a lot of live music? Like, how old were you?
Um, I think it was really for me, it was when I really started getting into Dave Matthews Band. That's really where it started. Like, I went to my first Dave show when I was like 17. I went to Toronto and I saw Dave Matthews for the first time. And my mom was also a concert photographer and she managed bands and stuff too. And so she would drive and, go take pictures at shows. And a lot of times she'd take us with her. Because if my dad was gone, it was me and mom and my brother. And so we would all go. So there was a lot of times when I was like sitting in the pit and she was working and, I'd see like all the different shows and stuff. So going to shows and like the live music experience is just like a normal thing anyways. Um, but it was when I started going to see Dave. And when I went there and really started to, see what was going on and everybody's hanging out in the parking lot and then you're on the lawn and everybody's having a great time and, oh, we should do this again next summer. And, just kind of going from there. And then when I started seeing Mo, because Mo is what got me to my first music festival. They were the ones that got me to go to Modown, which they need to bring Modown back. Like, is there a
I
petition we can
100%.
sign for Modown?
Mhm.
Literally, I miss Modown so much.
Me too, man. I
Dude,
know.
it
I
was
don't
the
know
best
why.
festival.
I said something to Vinny like last year, and he was like, "I don't know," and I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know? Come on,
Dude,
man."
but it has to be at Turin. I'm
Right.
sorry, but it cannot be at the other, what was it? Mohawk Valley was the other spot. And that was just not a good space for that festival. I don't know if it was the land or like the year I went, the weather was shitty. I don't know what it was, but Turin is just, I miss, like, I went to so many Modown. So Mo is really like, so Dave, I did a lot of shows with Dave, but Dave even back then was expensive,
Yeah.
because it's a different type of touring. And so, being a teenager and everything, it's definitely not, the right thing to be doing. So
No.
when I first got introduced to Mo, they were really the band that I went to music festivals, I went to summer camp, I did New Year's Eve runs. That's so they're really the ones that were like got me into everything from there because I mean, once you get into a Mo crowd, again, you're falling down the musical rabbit hole,
Mhm.
talking to everybody in attendance. So, and being from Buffalo, I would go to the shows at the town ballroom and stuff. And, so there's already such a community and a history here for them. And So then just being again in the crowd and everything like that, it's just it is. That's easily and definitely my favorite part of all of this is definitely that community vibe for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of cultivated by the bands too. Like,
Yeah.
there's a whimsical like magic about what these bands do to individuals. And that's the thing I think people don't understand. Like, yeah, how you've seen those clips on YouTube and like, this is what Fish sounds to a person that's not a Fish fan. It's like it's just terrible stuff like that. And then you're like, nah, you don't get it. Like, you just don't get it. And that's okay. It's okay
Yep.
if you don't get it. Like, some people don't get Otis Redding, which I also think is stupid, but like some people don't get that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know. There's a thing that these bands do to people that you love a band so much that there's just like there's only one thing that maybe you could really connect on in your love for that band with this like with all the thousands of other people that are in the crowd.
Yep.
But chances are you have a lot more in common with them than you might think than just that band. And then it just snowballs into this beautiful thing where you get to know these people for a lifetime. Like,
Truly, and they become like people that are I've had people in my life that I've met through music, but then they're there for like major life events, that these things that are happening, or I've had friends who I've been in their wedding, or, there's these other things that happen. You met these people at a show through the music. And I think that it's really interesting to me. And that's one of the main things that caused me to start the show back in 2018 was just going to all shows and meeting all the people and connecting and having that love for each other that you would literally do things for them because this love that you have for this music. But then when you start to get to know people, everybody's so different, different jobs and different geographical locations and different ethnical backgrounds and financial status and just like all of these other things that outside of that environment would maybe make you categorize that person in a different way.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? But because we're
100%.
all there and we're experiencing this music and having this passion for this thing, none of that other shit matters. And it's just a beautiful way that people connect. And, I said that on my episode today of my show. I don't like to get into all the shit that's going on, but everybody knows there's shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's trying to navigate whatever is going on in their life. But it's amazing that like music is that thing that connects everybody. Like it's still connecting people, it's still bringing people together. Marley was able to have that beautiful experience at the show and meet these people and do this thing. It's like it reminds you that there's still beautiful things happening in the world.
Oh my
It's
God. Yeah.
not all the just like crazy fuckery that is going on, like, in plain English, like,
Totally.
literally, that's what it is. But it's like, what beautiful things in life are happening, like, people are still falling in love, babies are being born, people are being married, we're creating music and art and connecting, and, we have to just remember all these beautiful things. And so, I think community in this sense was always important, but I think especially now, and the way that live music is changing and bands are evolving and, or if they have to cancel shows or, all those other things that are happening, it's like just make sure you're extra grateful when you are at the show,
Oh my God. Heck
you
yeah,
know?
Sarah. And you know what? I'll tell you, it is like music is like a force field. And
Yeah.
it feels like you could run through any asteroid field and you'd be fine. You'd come out unscathed. But like, I just went to see Hornsby a couple of weeks back, and Eggy opened up.
Nice.
And every time I go to a show, there is not. I can't think of one time that I've been at a show that I haven't been able to let go of everything else and be present. That present in my life. You know what I mean? Because there's something that happens chemically, and I'm sure this happens for you too, but like there's something chemical that happens where It is the most elated I can get, period. I don't think any drug could make me feel as good as music makes me feel in a moment, and inspires me to go home and pick up my instrument.
Right.
Um, there's nothing, and that's why I always have, like, arguments with friends of mine that, like, we'll go see a band and there's just some ripping guitar player and they're like, "Oh god, I'm just gonna throw my guitar in the trash." I'm like, "That's the dumbest fucking thing you can say, dude." Like, if anything, you should be super inspired and be like, "Oh, I'd like to learn that." Like, why don't we learn that? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't throw your guitar in the trash. You can throw it's like taking a little pile of joy and just dropping it out of your life kinda
Yeah,
thing,
just
you know?
smashing it on the ground. Well, it's interesting because, and we've talked about this, like, I don't play. So my mind is always, working in different ways. And when I go to shows, like, I also get inspired, but in different ways, because there's always so many creative ideas floating, in and around me and everything. And so, being in live music experiences either in the moment or, later on, it's very like palate cleansing. It allows me to unplug and just erase my mind from the never ending thoughts of everything that would block your creative flow and stuff because you're just managing life and doing all the things. And so it
Mhm.
just like opens up my channels in a way when I'm there, and then just can, because you're not thinking, I think what it is, you're just kind of exposed and just in the music.
Let me ask you this though, because of your, like, spontaneity of your ideas and your creative process. Like, when you're in the middle of something like that, how do you harness it and remember it without it overtaking your enjoyment of being present in that moment?
Um, a lot of times what I'll do, write, and then I'll always like laugh later when I come back. I'll make like a note for sure, like in my phone is usually the thing. Sometimes I'll have like something to write on, but I will always put like a little note in my phone. And it's interesting because sometimes it shows like I've had ideas just completely flow, and then I have to write them all down and make sure I don't forget anything. But then I stop myself. I'm like, okay, we got to be back and into the moment of what we're doing here. But I've had some creative things come to me. It's funny because when I was at Umphreys in Iceland, I was in the middle of the show and I had the idea I wanted to do like a college game day type thing. Umphreys does Bowl. And so I wanted to do a college game day type situation where I would host a panel and we would talk about the quarter that we just saw in real time, and it would stream with the stream and whatever. And I had this whole idea. Well, fast forward to the next bowl that happened tonight. I was able to, work it all out with the film crew and everything. I had my panel. Um, and we were on the stream. So when you watch the stream and there was the sets, it was me and my panel, and we were dissecting the music that had just happened in real time. Even to this day, it's like surreal that
That's
all
awesome.
actually happened, that I did it. This is the coolest fucking thing ever. But
Hell yeah.
that was a moment, like, and there's been so many other things like in recent history, but that's something where it was just like in the moment, I was like, what would be really fucking cool to do sometime. And, then I think it was maybe 2 years later, it had all happened. And so that's really like even my show. It was just
Man,
an intuitive download in 2018. It was like, you need to start a podcast. Like, that's literally what it was. And I'm like, yeah, like this doesn't, just kind of, because the version of me back then, that was not anything that, would have done. So, um, yeah, that was a whole intuitive downloaded thing too. Here we are. I mean,
that's
so I'm
so
glad I
dope.
listened to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
and what Sarah's alluding to is her podcast dropped among this crowd. I just popped up a link for the Instagram so you can check in on that and find more information about it. But that's the podcast that I was a guest on. But before we go there, Does that podcast, so that doesn't predate your relationship with Humphreys? That's after you got to know those cats?
Yeah, so that's really like that's kind of where that all started, like I was looking for the community. I was looking for folks that, because Umphreys was the world that I was in at the time. So it was really like pointed at that community. But because, I love Mo and I love all these other bands and everything, and there's such that mixture, within the community and fan base and everything. And so, but that's where it started was me wanting to um find people that wanted to talk about music. And so through that is where I really, built the relationship with that and everything.
Okay. Because when we were talking last time, I told you like Anchor Drops was like my first. Well, that's a lie. I think my first exposure to Humphreys was the first Bonnaroo. You know when they put out the compilation record of everybody that played the
That
festival.
'04 show.
Yeah, and I think it was "Hurt Burt Bath" maybe was the song
Yeah.
on there. But
Everybody talks about that '04.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was something that was
Iconic.
so huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I didn't go to it, but like my band was on tour at that time and somebody got a copy of that compilation and we listened to it, and then I remember hearing that song and being like, oh, okay, I have heard of these guys because I think they had played with Mo a couple times, like opened up for
Yeah.
Mo in the early
Yeah.
stages. So I think I had heard of them, but when Anchor Drops hit me and I listened to that record, that is when I really became a fan of the band.
Yeah.
And that is when I really kind of became a fan of like guitar prowess, for lack of
Yeah.
a better way. I mean, I was always into Trey and I was always trying to learn, You Enjoy Myself, even if it was like bits at a time to understand how that put those things together, like Lincoln Logs. But I just remember hearing, Jake and hearing Brendan and being like, oh wow, these dudes I'm willing to bet are like my age, willing to bet they grew up listening to the same shit I grew up listening to. So the grunge stuff, Pantera, all the like cool, like, heavier music, but still melodic. There's Beatles elements of things. There's, you know what I mean? So it's like
A
that
classic
is,
rock vibe. Yep.
yeah. So all that stuff for me, when I heard them, that is what came crashing in and made me a fan. But like, what made
Yep.
you a fan of that band?
Well, I think that's what it was. Is so my first Umphrey show was in '07. They used to do this thing in downtown Buffalo called Thursday in the Square, and it was amazing. It was free and you could get beer. It was like 250, and you would go, like, literally, you would go. I saw John Butler Trio there. I saw Yonder there. I saw Mo there. I saw the Disco Biscuits there. I saw
Whoa.
Umphreys there. Like, and it would be every Thursday, and it was free.
Dang.
Like, are you kidding me? So my first show was in '07, and I didn't really like get in yet. But by the next year, 2008 into 2009, like I was at Freeze New Year's. So like in that kind of like year frame. And a lot of that again came down to Mo, being at Modown. And then I went to summer camp, and that's, if anybody knows, I mean, that's Mo and Humphreys and back then. Um, so because of doing more Mo stuff, I was like being exposed to Humphreys more. And the guy that I was dating at the time was really into Humphreys. And so we went to New Year's, and everything just kind of, fell forward from there. But for me, it was the eclecticness of their music and the construct of it and the way that they jammed and all of their influences, because if anybody's familiar with their music and their set list and their covers, and was paying attention to what I was saying in the beginning of music that I was exposed to, it really makes sense that I love them the way that I do, because it's just that music. It's all of that mixed together and then jumbled up, kind of thrown around like Yahtzee. And
Mhm.
I mean, I love that weird prog stuff, like, as
What?
Jake affectionately said to me, "Sarah, you like the weird shit." And I was like, "I do." And he's like, "That's cool."
It makes sense, man. If your mom's putting yes in your ear holes, you know what I mean? Like that early. I
Yeah,
think it,
literally, I'm gonna grow up and kind of have a little bit of a love affair with the sound of the guitar. I don't know what to say here, guys. Like,
oh
in
my
the
god.
keyboard thing, like that's the thing is like even today when I ran to Target and I was listening, I had Kansas on for a little bit. And I don't know what else was I listening to, but it's like that sound, with the keyboards and the guitars and just that whatever. And it's just like, this
It's
is
a
wild.
match. It's peanut butter and jelly. Let's be
Yeah,
real.
it's literally like it just makes sense,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Mm.
that's what it was for me.
I feel like those guys too, like, they're just on another level in terms of like how they think about music and approach
Yeah,
composition. And even like the fun shit, like when you do a mashup of Nine Inch Nails Closer and the Beatles come together and
yeah,
you make it work like they did,
yep,
it's like, what the hell? That was like my favorite mashup they did. I remember hearing that and being like, these guys are so fucking clever. It's just like
yeah,
they're just so smart with how they like view music and the risks that they're willing to take. And if nobody's seen Umphreys or listened to Umphreys, it's like standing on the edge of a knife the whole show. It just
yeah,
feels like every moment is dangerous and I think their whole vibe with how they improvise and everything is so cool. How they sit on a groove and establish that, and then make it build and build and build, and like it's like this mushroom cloud. But how did you get to know those guys, and how did like the Jake Blade stuff all kind of come into your atmosphere?
So, getting to know those guys really was about, I mean, going on tour. Like, as a fan, I really fell into, my own realm and rotation of going on tour and doing the whole thing. And when I started my show, it's just kind of the momentum of everything and doing all the different coverage and the ideas. And then we got into COVID and everybody was home. And so that really during COVID is when the idea for DATC Media as an entity really started to take shape. That was never the idea um when I started my show. It wasn't the idea to build this media empire.
Mhm.
Um but it was during that time that there was a lot of camaraderie that started because everybody was home, and so I was able to really, do interviews with the guys and do like fun little things. The media company produced we did like a fun football picks series one football season with Stasic. And so we started to do like these fun little things and getting them involved. And, like the podcast media company hosted online silent auctions and the money to the crew during COVID because most bands, they were still getting paid in some capacity. They had resources or other ways to make money, like through lessons or whatever. But a lot of the guys on the crew, like, that's what they do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that, right? Like they're not going to, who are they going to give lessons to or whatever? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so the podcast, um, we did an online auction. I got a lot of different fan things, people that donated different memorabilia and posters and things, and we auctioned it off, and all the money went to the crew. And so it's through just kind of doing these things that I would have just done anyways, and was doing with podcast, it just really built that relationship and everything with the band. And so that was really special. um Everything with the Jake Blade, that's a really funny story, just kind of like how everything builds. So, I got involved with that. I'm trying to think like where the actual starting point kind of was with that. I really I was trying to think I know that they had some t-shirts that they had, and they had sent me a t-shirt to have because of the show, just like having the show. And at that point I was, really building an audience and a community and a following and whatever else. And I wore the shirt to, I think it was the show in Vail, Colorado. It was like during that run. And everybody was like super excited about it. And so then they sold a bunch of shirts.
Mhm.
And I said to them, what would be really cool is if you made like some women's tank tops. Like, don't go crazy, but Jake has female fans and they would wear a tank top. And so they did, worked on something together, and people bought them.
Mhm.
And so from there, it just kind of interestingly snowballed um over time. I mean, that was 2022. So I mean, that's 3 years now.
Mhm.
Um Now it's just snowballed into this absolutely incredible relationship that I have with them. Um and wear all the hats with them and have been able to really help them with the marketing and the branding and um the word of mouth and the social media and the website, and help with all those things, because Mark, the owner of Rough Gauge, um he's my if my dad was still alive, he's my dad's age. And they live in Michigan, and it's a very, very small operation. um and this kind of stuff was just not his forte. That's not his wheelhouse. But when you're trying to build a company and trying to push it out into different things, you need somebody who does know those things. And so working with him has been really special. um Also, because like I said, my dad's not around anymore, so it's been really nice to kind of have that relationship with him on that level also over the years. um I feel completely honored to be a part of everything going on, because it's literally the family and then
Mhm.
me, so
It's
to
so
be
cool.
included in everything that they have going on, and, helping them build. Like I told you before we went on live, I was at a guitar expo here in Buffalo on Saturday, and, they're repping Rough Age, and all the people I've got to interview on my show, doing like the featured artist thing. Um, and that's one of the things I really love with working with Mark. He is always on board for my crazy ideas. And I'm like, we should do this or we should whatever. And he's like, whatever. And he's like, do your thing, and he's very willing to take my ideas for a spin. And so I love that too. And it's just been very special to watch it grow and people be really interested in such a cool little gadget. And it's opened up the ability for me to help bring Jake's signature guitar to life, because of working with Rough Age, and was able to build a relationship with GNL, RIP. Uh,
I know, dude. Ugh,
dude, that's a whole thing.
I
Um,
know.
but so then able to, help Jake bring this guitar to life, because that's something that he's always wanted to do. So working with that is certainly something I never thought that I would get to do. I mean, come
It's
on,
super
that's
cool, Sarah. Dude,
so
I
cool.
I bought a GNL Comanche when I got into Humphreys. I was like, I'm like one of those cats that goes all in, like when I
Yeah,
get into something.
for
And
sure.
I bought a GNL Comanche when I saw Jake playing one. I was like, oh, I love how that sounds. But I never all of my trims on my guitars I block off because I never use a trim.
Yeah.
But when because they always feel like they get in the way, and I don't want to have to like reach around when they. So I was just like, you know what, I should probably try one of those at some point to see if I would like using it. Because sometimes if I get a little bit frisky, I will grab my bridge and pull it just to get a little bit of wobble. So I was
Yep.
like, then maybe one day I'll try that because it's the same concept, but way more ergonomic to use the blade. So it's like doesn't make
I
any
I
sense.
I can go on a whole rant about it, and I did on Saturday too, and, anybody that has listened to my show anytime knows how I feel about it. I just feel like the whammy bar takes away from the beauty of the guitar body itself. Like, it
Mm,
always felt like it was so out of place, and it's again one of those things where it's no surprise that I'm working with them, because that was always like the comment I would make. Like, it would always be the passive aggressive comment I had to make. Like, ugh,
mm.
the whammy bar, it's just hanging there. So whatever. And now look, fast forward, here we are. I'm like working with the company that invented the alternative to the whammy bar. But it allows the guitar to be the beautiful piece of art that it is. It doesn't take away from it. And, we offer a dip option. Some players love to have custom colors that match the body and knobs and the whole deal. They want to go all in, and that just makes it even more beautiful. So that's what I love about it. And I tell people too, you don't have to be fully committed. You can just pull it out, put your whammy bar back in, change 'em back and forth. You don't have to fully commit
Mm,
because there's some players that are so, this is the way we've always done it, and it's the way we're always going to do it.
right.
And that's when I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to give it up. You just try a little. All right. To be afraid of it. I promise you're going to love it.
Yeah,
So
it looks super cool. It looks super cool. All
you'll
right,
have
so
to give
let
it
me
one.
let me just ask you, so because we're running out of time. Um, so with I was going to ask you about the GNL situation because of all the news about GNL. So what's going on with that guitar at this point, like with Jake's signature guitar?
So they did release a really small number. Sweetwater had like legitimately a handful, like
Hmm.
not very many. Um my very good friend Taylor O'Connor, guitarist in Mosey Beat, he was actually able to snag one. And it's interesting though, because the QC wasn't amazing on it. And I don't know how I feel about this.
Mm,
Considering, operations have ceased to exist. And so it makes me, kind of believe that we rushed things a bit.
mm,
But it is what it is. And so as far as I know, they just released a very small number. So if you go on Lake Sweetwater's website, they're sold out. But they did release a very small number of them. Jake has his. He was using it this past weekend. They were in Brooklyn, I
mm.
believe. And so he was using it then. But a very small number, and very quietly released too. I will say that
Yeah, I
was
didn't. Besides you sending me that text, I didn't know about it.
well, and it's interesting because we had, obviously, and I'm the marketing gal. We had things in place. We obviously, it was a major announcement, and there's a Jake Blade with every guitar. I mean, it has to be. That was contingency number one. You're not going to have a Jake signature guitar without the Jake Blade on it.
Right.
Um, and so, obviously there was all these conversations about release, and Taylor sent me a link and goes, "Oh, look what I bought today." And I'm like, "Oh, that's nice."
Mm,
So it was, and then when I started to find out other things that happened, and the guy at the music store that I spoke about, he knows some people that were actually, that worked there, and that laid off. And so it was,
it's rough.
I hope, the rumor is that Fender is coming in to to
Acquire.
to take things over and do things. It makes sense. I hope they do, but I hope that they do and they really brand, and that sounds so whatever, but it's a business, and they really brand and lean on the legacy.
Right.
Because I think that, Dave McLaren is a wonderful guy, but I just think that him and his team didn't really lean into the legacy and the story and all of that, the history in the ways that they could have, because I don't even play. But for me, GNL GNL's my favorite, and a lot of that has to do with the history of it. And there's so many other people that I've had conversations with. Even the Marshall guy, the Marshall rep at the Guitar Expo, even he was saying, it's like, oh, I love GNL. I love the story of GNL. I love their history and whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so many people have said that. And I think that that would be what would help set them apart from the other brands and these other things, is really leading into that and getting back to those core values.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I think is really going to help.
Oh yeah.
Certainly current economics and things like that didn't help them out. They had issues with tariffs and supplies and all of the other things that are going on. Nobody is immune to any of that right now, and unfortunately was really affected by that,
Mm-hmm.
because of their best selling products and everything. So that certainly didn't help thing at all. um I think moving forward, branding wise, where my mind is most of the time anyways, I think, yeah. And I've joked, if I had won the lottery, I would have bought GNL.
Purchased
So
GNL.
yeah, I would have bought GNL.
I would have loved that if you have done that.
I
I,
had
I,
I had friends actually that reached out to me that were like, "So, is Sarah J gonna go up?" I was like,
are we
"Listen,
gonna
if
do
Sarah
this?
wants to hire me, let's do this. Like, let's go, guys."
Oh my god, how cool would that be to own a guitar company?
That would be
Man,
no big deal or anything.
right, right. I think it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I if Fender does buy them, so Fender, I have a beef with Fender. I mean, I've played Strats my whole life, but I have a beef that Fender has. If you look at their website and you try to like find specific models or you're looking for something, they're trying to like figure out every single like micro like price bracket. So like from Squire up through custom shop and beyond kind of thing. There's so many different models now. It's so confusing. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed. Whereas if you go to like PRS's website, it's very clearly like, here's the SE guitars, here's the S2 guitars, and here's the core, that we build that are like the higher end stuff. And it's just, I just don't think, it almost seems like Fender's not trying to just get back to like making guitars for the player. And they're trying to figure out, okay, what's going to be the $500 guitar? What's going to be the $800 guitar? What's going to be the $1,200? What's going to be the $2,500? You know what I mean? It's just like, dude, just figure out a way to make the low point, midpoint, and the high point. Like, you don't need to have 16 price brackets in there. It's just they're overcompensating in some way, shape, or form, trying to find their market in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird. It's really
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah.
But I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, they're Fender.
Exactly.
I mean
They're
nothing. So all right. So Sarah, I do this thing called the lightning round get down at the end of every episode.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you 10 questions.
Okay.
It's a this or that type thing. I'm gonna put on a metronome at 112 BPM just for some suspense here.
Okay.
You can explain your answers if you want, but you do not have to. You can burn right through it if you like, whatever you're more comfortable with. But I know you, and you're probably going to explain them, and I'm here for it.
Okay.
All right. So, first question is always the same: Lennon or McCartney?
McCartney.
Okay. Theater or stream it at home?
It depends, I guess I'm gonna say. But I would say theater though, because I mean you get that live experience. But the stream is fun at home because then you can like have your kids there. So
and snacks and a bathroom close by.
And a
And you can,
bathroom, right, like, you
and you can
have your
pause
own
it.
vibe, and if you wanna fall asleep, like, you're good, like, you wanna
So
sleep on the
true.
couch, okay.
So friggin' true. All right. So I don't know how this is gonna go over with the vegan in you, but French
Okay.
fries or onion rings?
I'm gonna go onion rings.
Okay.
Okay.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars 100%.
Okay. Anchor drops or the bottom half?
Anchor drops.
Okay. This you can't deny the songs on that. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, call or text?
Text, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Superpower, flying or teleportation?
Teleportation. Yeah,
Instantaneous. Um,
totally.
Radiohead or Pink Floyd?
Pink Floyd.
All right. Phones prohibited at shows or snap away?
I think if you're taking pictures and video, then yeah, but, like, if you're in your phone, then no.
Okay.
Like, there's people that'll be, like, in the crowd, and they're, like, literally scrolling Instagram or something. Like,
What is that all about?
what are you doing right now? But if you're
Oh,
taking pictures or, like, if, like, I gotta text my kid or whatever, like, yeah, and you're just capturing, like, the moment, but you don't check social media and your emails at the show.
right.
Like, be
Okay.
there. You know what I mean? Like, be there.
100%.
That's
100%.
that's where I think, but take the pictures, do the things, share music, do the FaceTime,
Enjoy
but
yourself. But
but
don't be an
also enjoy your
ass. Yeah. All right. Here's the last one, Sarah. Sometimes this is the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest.
okay.
If you could take one album, and it does not have to be your favorite album of all time, but if you
Okay.
could take one album and erase it from your memory just so you can go back and experience it for the first time again, what album would that be?
That is the hardest one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, oh my god, I don't know. This is the hardest one.
That's okay. Like I said, it doesn't have to be your favorite record, just a record you love.
I'm gonna say off the top of my head, because this is just like what came to me. I would have to say "Before These Crowded Streets" by the Dave Matthews Band.
Now that I know your backstory, that makes sense. That's a good
Yeah,
one. I don't think
yeah.
Dave has ever come up for that question. Out of all the shows that I've had, I don't think Dave has
I
ever
love
come
that.
up. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, there was a couple other that I was like thinking, but that was the first one that was just like, no, because that's just such a great album, and yeah,
It's a
it's
staple, man.
yeah,
Yeah. That's a
it's
really good record, actually. Like,
I
I
actually
like,
have like the rings
oh, hell
tattooed
yeah.
on my arm. Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like I like that record more than I like Under the Table and Dreaming.
Yeah, truly. Like that is just such a fantastic album in their catalog. I mean, there's other,
Yeah.
great albums for sure that we could get into, but that is just and it's such a great album like with them as a group like at their moment in time and everything and just some really powerful songs and great vocals and the band was so tight and yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's just
It's a really good feeling record, like sonically. And I think right at that time, when did that come out in like 97 or 96?
98, I think, like,
Okay.
98, I think it might have been, and it for me too, like, that's an album that you have to listen to that one at the start. Like, it's one of those that because of the way that the tracking and everything flows, like, you have to start at the beginning and it's like a story,
Yeah.
the way that it all comes together. So, I think that would be it, just to be able to, like, experience that again,
Yeah.
but
That era of time, I finally remember because my friends, there was a bunch of us, we went to see Fish at Virginia Beach Amphitheater. And it was at that show, that was right before Story of the Ghost came out, too.
Mhm.
So, like, when they came out, they played, like, Ghost and, like, Birds of a Feather, and, like, there was all this stuff that they were playing that was super funky, and that's
Yeah.
the show where Leroy came out and played, like, 2 or 3 saxes, and like Trey had like 3 guitars on that he was playing.
Yep.
But I just remember that fondly because I was like, this is the closest I've gotten to seeing Dave Matthews. Like,
Yeah. Well,
in
and
this
that's like,
moment.
I love their little bromance too. Cause I've said that, a lot of people know how I feel about Fish. Like, I love Trey separately. Fish is not my vibe, but I love the bromance between Trey and Dave and the things they've done. And Some Devil, like, I would probably answer that too. Like, Dave's solo album is
Yeah.
so phenomenal. It is so good. Like, that would probably be a close second because that is such a great record too. So to be able to
Uh-huh.
experience that again for the first time would just be like, it's that's a great album too.
So damn
For sure.
lucky. That song.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, and when they
God.
started, like, incorporating the Some Devil songs as a full band into those shows, like, it just gave them this new life because now they were just adding all this dynamic to it and all these layers with the full band, and, I mean, Tim Reynolds, that was the smartest thing ever, having him join the band, for sure,
Yeah.
like, that just leveled it up. I mean, he's amazing. Shortest guy ever. I met him once, like, randomly, and he's literally like 4'11" or something. He's so tiny. He's so tiny. Seriously, but he's just up there with his sunglasses, just ripping, just shredding, no big deal. But he's literally like the tiniest dude. It's so
Oh my
funny.
God. Are you a
It's
fan of Mike Doty as
Yeah,
well? Okay.
yeah.
Like Haughty
And
Melodic,
and
that
I got
solo?
into him, like, because of Dave too, because I think they did, like, a couple songs together, and I know they did tours together and stuff, so that's how I familiar with him, but I know he's got a whole, career and whatever else with a well, he was in a band too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in
Was it
oh my
Soul
gosh,
Coughing?
Soul Coughing. Yeah, he was in
Yeah,
Soul
that's what it
Coughing.
was.
And then and you know what's cool too? He put out a solo record not too long ago. I mean, within the last 5 years, maybe 7 years, but he put out an album where he redid Soul Coughing tunes.
Oh, okay.
In his new vibe, the way he is now, which is
Yeah,
more of that. If nobody is familiar with Mike Doty, go check out Doughty. Haughty Melodic is the name of the record. It's so good. And
okay.
Dave sings on that song Tremendous Brunettes,
Okay.
which I used to cover that tune all the time. It's such a great song.
I'll have
Um,
to listen to this.
but anyway, I'm getting derailed. Sarah,
I love it. I love it.
thank you so much for doing this and hanging out. I appreciate you. Anything to promote or anything that's going on, I'll put up. BV, thank you again for putting all these links in here. But Sarah, I'll just let you talk right now. What's going on?
Yeah, just Instagram, Sarah Jehaniak. Dropped Among This podcast is everywhere you find your podcasts. ATC Media. You could just type that into Google and all the things will pop up. And I also have a Patreon. So patreon.com/DATC Media Company. And that's where there is a ton of content and blog posts and photos from my amazing team of photographers. So yeah, that's where you find me. So yeah, this
Awesome.
was awesome. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Yeah, of course. No problem at all. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. BV, again, thank you for moderating the chat and putting all the links in here that Sarah has to offer. Go check out Sarah's stuff. Super cool. Check out the podcast dropped among this crowd. Make sure you guys take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.